and I'm just trying to figure out how can I intertwine my spiritual journey with my health and fitness journey to where, with the way my mind works, it kind of comes together.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to summarize that here in a little bit because I know when you were driving, there was internet connections. The audio was going in and out. But real quick, fellas, just show of hands. Has anybody ever been in a season of life where they maybe had to put their health and fitness goals on the back burner? Maybe work, family, they work on their spiritual journey, mentally. Okay, everybody's hand showed up, right, Jimmy? Like, it's the truth. That's what happens, myself included, okay? Now, to summarize real quick, right? Just for the sake of this, so that way we're all on the same page. Jimmy, you mentioned about the first time going around with Heartletics. I mean, you did, man. You got the record, brother. You lost the most amount of weight in 12 weeks. You crushed it. You lost 75 pounds in 12 weeks. You were dialed in. When I say jump, you would always say how high. You crush on the steps, crush on the water, crush on the nutrition, crush on the training. And that's why you won that award, man, plain and simple. But now this go around, it's a little bit different. Now your main focus is more on, having this spiritual journey, right? Try to grow closer to God, right? Work on your faith more, be in the Bible more, be more in the word, which is great. Because remember, like here at Heartletics, it's not just your physical journey, but it's also your emotional, your mental, and your spiritual. I say it all the time. It's like we're all trying to just build each other up here, and work on essentially the four pillars of your well-being. And if you put all your eggs in one basket, let's say your physical, you're going to be slacking on maybe the spiritual, the mental, the emotional side as well. Way back in the day when I was 22 years old for me and I was dealing with a lot of depression, suicidal thoughts, if you think about it, I was a beast, right? I was an MMA fighter physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I was weaker than a dog, man. So it's like I had nothing going for me. So it just goes to show you to always fill up on each one of those cups. And so right now, you're just having a hard time balancing between also being, on your physical journey and also on your spiritual journey. And you're looking for tips on how to combine the two. So that way, essentially, you're filling up your cup and you're trying to become the best version of yourself. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Solid. Okay. So the first thing I want you to understand is this, man. This is coming from First Corinthians 6, 19 through 20, right? Where Paul kind of talks about how, your body's a temple, and it's from the Holy Spirit and pretty much like, take care of your body. So what I'm saying is this is like, don't just put all your eggs in one basket with anything, whether it's the spiritual, whether it's the emotional, whether it's the mental. Try your best to be well-rounded, okay? But now I want to put ball back in your court, Jimmy, because I think this is what's going to make it really hit home for you. And you mentioned about being on the spiritual journey and trying to grow closer to God. Let me ask you a question. How do you grow closer to God? Like, name off all the things in terms of how to grow closer to God.
Uh, Praying, reading the Word, reading the Bible, going to worship, going to church, um, and just trying to, follow His Word.
Perfect. Yeah, beautifully, right? I would say prayer, reading the Bible, going to church, worshiping, listening to maybe different sermons, whether you're there live or maybe it's like a podcast or a video, something like that. Faith-based podcasts. Like I like listening to a lot of faith-based podcasts as well, especially when I'm driving or even at the gym. And that's what I wanted to get to next is that our job, right, between this conversation that you're having with me right now, our job is to combine the two. That way it's easier. That way there's balance, right? So let me ask you a question, right? When you do go to the gym, what do you normally listen to?
Well, normally I would listen to sports radio, or recently it's been mostly sports radio, um, or a podcast. But today I actually put on Brandon Lake.
Oh, nice.
You know
Yeah,
who he is?
I
Yeah.
do know who he is.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So I started listening to him, and that was cool. Worked out to him today.
Yeah, it's funny as I was listening to him this morning also, man. He has some great songs. Great songs.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one way. So if you think about it, like you're filling up your physical cup by working out and still worshiping God by listening to that type of music, right? So you're still doing both, okay? Now, one thing that you can also do, and this is just what I personally like to do, is, on my way to the gym, there's no music or there's like a binaural beat where it's just a melody and I'm praying, right? That's one of my quiet times with God when I'm not here in my office is my commute time. I'm praying, I'm speaking out loud, right? And like that's one thing that you can do. You can do that going to the gym and also after the gym because now you're combining it. And if let's just say like some days you want to listen to a podcast, whether it's a sermon, whether it's a faith-based podcast, like that's another area. But I think essentially though, what I want you to understand in all this is that you can worship God all day long, plain and simple. Whether you're at the gym, whether it's your morning time, whether it's just you giving thanks before you're about to eat your food, whether you're at work, like that could be a nonstop thing. Now, your physical journey, a little bit different, right? Because, like, you sure can bang out push ups and sit ups throughout the course of the day. It's just a little bit harder. Remember that connection, that relationship that we have with God, that's more personal. That's more of a you thing, okay? But this is the next thing that I want to kind of get to is setting up boundaries for yourself, because obviously you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So it's giving yourself flexibility. And the way that I like to just describe this is honestly think of yourself as a video game character. Okay. And let's just say there's the four skills that you're trying to build upon. You have your physical, your mental, your emotional, your spiritual, right? And let's just say this video game character, right? We're stuck at level 9 and we're trying to beat the boss and get to level 10. But maybe on this journey, right? Like we need different skills. Maybe we need more of the physical. Maybe we need more of the emotional. And we've been focusing so much on, the spiritual where now we're kind of offset a little bit. So it's like, this is where I want you to think about is like, how do you truly become the best version of yourself? You focus on all those areas, and this is where once again, like you got to understand your schedule better than anybody else. Just like everybody else that's listening to this, watching this right now, or maybe watching it on, YouTube or listening to the podcast later, is you're going to go through these different seasons of life. Some seasons you have more time to adapt and be more involved with your health and fitness journey. And other seasons, hey, it's more with your family. It's other seasons with more with work. Other seasons, it's more with your spiritual journey. But it's all about balance. And I think the hardest thing for us as most guys is that we put all our eggs in one basket and we think about us being in our prime, losing 75 pounds in 12 weeks. And then next thing you know, it's that ego, that pride starts to sneak in. And it's like, oh, we're not good enough because we weren't here at this level. But you were a whole different
Mm,
Jimmy back then. You were the
yeah.
physical Jimmy back then, right? You're the spiritual Jimmy back then. So once again, like we're not trying to put all our eggs in one basket. We're trying to find balance, right? We're trying to find sync with everything. So it's like, in order to do that, though, you have to give yourself grace. You have to give yourself permission to just say, hey, this season of my life right now, I'm trying to be well balanced. And, that's going to look a lot different for other people than it might be for yourself. For yourself, right? Maybe that is doing more home workouts so you have more time to spend in the word or you have more time to focusing on other things where it's just easier for you to stay on track. If let's just say you're working out 4 times a week at the gym, but you have a hard time going to the gym because of whatever the case may be, but you know for a fact, hey, you can do some push-ups at home and have an easier time staying consistent with that, then yeah, is that gonna, eventually get us to our goal? Sure, absolutely. Is it gonna get us to our goal as fast as it is if we're going to the gym? Absolutely not. But that's okay. Remember, like this isn't just like a sprint. And I think this is
Hmm.
another thing that it's the ego, it's the pride in all of us where, oh, we want to get here tomorrow. We want to lose the body fat tomorrow, right? Like we were so good back in the day when our metabolism was 20 years old, right? I want to get like that tomorrow. And everything has to be a now thing because of this Amazon Prime type world that we live in. We want everything right now. But we got to understand that, like, hey, as long as we're working towards that goal, we're progressing. And that's why I always say, progression over perfection. The only person that you have to be satisfied with is, hey, looking at yourself in the mirror and realizing, am I better than where I was at yesterday? That's it. And so when it comes down to like what you can do right now, start off with the controllable things. Like what can you control? Is it doing your steps? Is it doing your push-ups? Is it tracking your food and not guesstimating it, but actually doing it? I know for me firsthand, before I was like actually tracking all my stuff in the app, like, yeah, I was guesstimating everything, but bro, I got ripped in 30 days by actually tracking everything. Like, I'm not trying to brag or boast, but like, it literally just goes to show you when you use the app, you're tracking everything, you will get the results you're looking for. plain and simple. So it's just like, okay, with that being said, what can you do to maybe get on board with tracking the nutrition? I'm not saying you need to be perfect overnight, but hey, nutrition reigns supreme over the training any day of the week. So it's like, why don't we focus on, okay, hey, what are our variables in place where all we got to do is press a few buttons? We know we're going to hit that protein target and we're good. What do we got to do to get back on board with doing our weekly check-ins, right? We're making sure without a doubt, hey, I'm submitting over that check-in form, should take no less than 5 minutes. And then it's like, okay, hey, we're good with that for a week or two. Now the next thing is maybe the steps, or maybe it's the water consumption, or maybe it's the sleep, or maybe it's the push-ups or the sit-ups. You start building upon things like this because now it becomes a lot easier to stay on track without falling off. It's the same thing, Jimmy, when it's, New Year's is coming around the corner. Everybody gets that rush of, oh, I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. They sign up for a gym membership. They're working out every single day for 2 hours, but they haven't built up the foundation. They haven't built up the habits. So by February and March, they fall off, and they still have the gym membership that they're paying money to every single month, but yet they don't even show up anymore. It's because they start off too strong and forgot about that foundation. The last thing I want to say is this, is that give yourself grace, right? So I'm speaking from one believer to another. And, when we first started talking, right, we talked a lot about the prodigal son, Jimmy. You remember that? We're like, hey, I feel like
Hmm.
it's really resonated with me. So if you remember that one, that story in Luke, where it's like, hey, the son leads the father. He goes off, blows all his money on like cocaine and strippers, eventually ends up eating like the pig, slums and everything like that, working as a slave. And finally, right, because he didn't want to go back home because his ego and his pride got in the way. So he's like, finally, enough's enough. Like, I'm going to go back home. But his father came out running, meet him halfway there. His father didn't wait for him to meet the door. It's like, no, his father came out running, meet him halfway right there. Grace, right? Same thing what you need to have for yourself. If you think about it also with Paul, right? I think it was in Acts, he's on the road to Damascus. And Paul was somebody that at the time he was called Saul and he was killing Christians left to right. He's on the road to Damascus, all of a sudden gets blinded right by Jesus. And, all of a sudden it's like he has this huge epiphany, this huge heart change where he converts over, changes his name to Paul. And all of a sudden, like he's a great apostle now, and so Jesus, once again, right, grace for him. And it's like, these are the things that we need to take in consideration because ultimately what hurts us the most on our spiritual journey, what hurts us the most on our emotional journey, and I'm somebody that can speak front hand with that one, with somebody that struggles with depression, right? Somebody that or something that struggles, right, or hurts us on our mental journey, and obviously something that hurts us on our physical journey. It's always the same thing, the voice in our head, right? The ego, the pride, oh, hey, we're not good enough, or hey, we'll skip this workout, we'll get started next week, or hey, like you're putting in all this effort, you're never going to see the results you're looking for. Bro, like that's the voice that when guys feed that thing, the bad wolf, they never get the results that they're looking for. So, like, in order to actually be successful in any path of journey that you're on right now, any season of life that you're in right now, you've got to focus first and foremost on killing that voice, right? And like, there's two ways to kill that voice. Either one, you can bash it firsthand by yourself, going personally with my, just being honest with you guys, that has never once worked for me. Never once worked for me. But I'll tell you what always has worked for me, waving the white flag and saying, hey guys, I need help. Like I'm struggling right now, right? Like I'm injured. I need help with, what kind of roll the punches, what to do with my health and fitness journey. Or, hey guys, I'm struggling right now on my spiritual journey. Or, hey guys, I'm struggling right now emotionally. I'm struggling right now mentally, right? Like waving the white flag, we think, because it's that ego and that pride, it's going to start screaming in your ear. They're going to think you're a loser. They're going to think you're not good enough. What are all these people going to think about you when you do that? But I tell you what, like as soon as you wave the white flag and admit that you need help, that voice shuts up permanently, right? And it is the best feeling in the world, as my pastor always says, a problem shared is a problem cut in half. It's off your plate firsthand, you know? And obviously in the Bible, right? Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. So in my recommendation for you before Mike, takes it away when he talks about more balance and what kind of helped him with his, work, family, everything like that. My recommendation for you, brothers, intertwine it, right? Like spend that time also, in the word, but also think about it like this. you can do that wherever and whenever. You can constantly give glory to God, constantly, right, be worshiping, constantly be in prayer. And like, that's the beauty of working on your spiritual journey. It doesn't have to be, oh, I can only dedicate 30 minutes of quiet time first thing in the morning and that's it. It's like, no, I can do this wherever. I can do this at work. I can do it in the bathroom stall. I can do this right before I eat my food. I can do this right before I go to sleep. I can do this on my commute. Your health and fitness journey is a little bit different because if you're going to the gym, hey, you got to be at the gym, you know. But even with that being said, hey, you can still focus on rolling with the punches, doing some stuff at home, still staying on track with the nutrition. And that still, once again, is going to help you with progression. But don't let the ego, don't let the pride get into your head saying, like, oh man, you're not good enough, or you're never going to be that Jimmy that lost the 75 pounds in 12 weeks. Remember, that was a different Jimmy. That wasn't a Jimmy that was focusing on his spiritual journey, right? You're a whole different Jimmy right now. You're going to be a better Jimmy on top of it. Who cares about the weight loss? If you ever grow spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally, you're going to be well rounded. Going back to that video game character, right? You're going to defeat the boss that way.
That's definitely a lot of help there.
Yeah, well, good, man. And like, hear me out. I'm not a Bible scholar, and I'm for sure not a book person, man. I struggled my whole entire life with reading comprehension. But like, my quick tips to at least help you out is one, when I'm reading the Bible, right? Like, I just read like maybe just like a verse or two. Like, I just got finished up with reading through Peter, so I'll read from 1 to 2, few short paragraphs, right? And then from 2 to 3, few short paragraphs, and I just do that every single morning. I got this 63-day devotional. It says, I will always overcome. It's for lasting faith. Really, really good. I actually post these on my Instagram and Facebook stories every single morning. But Jimmy, it's literally like you read a page and then there's a prayer. Solid, right? It's something that is very quick, efficient for me, and it resonates. And then also, I got the Uverse Bible app. So I'm constantly getting like the
Yeah.
word of the day. So if you think about it, that's just my morning routine. Read the Bible, do my devotional, and obviously with the app, I'm getting sent over the notification usually around 7 a.m. But just by doing that, it doesn't take a long time at all for me. And that way I can focus maybe another like 10 minutes of prayer, go to the gym, have that prayer time, you know, on my commute, have that prayer time back from the gym as well. And I'm good, you know, and that's what really works for me. And then obviously later on throughout the course of the day, I'm praying with my family before we sit down, before we eat. We're typically praying before we go to sleep at night. So once again, like that's the beauty of working on your spiritual journey. You can
Yeah.
always focus on doing it, something like that.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Something I have to do is, I'm like you said, I'm always hard on myself. So, and if I have in my head I have to do this at this time, or if I wake up a little late and I won't be able to get my whole workout in, it's like, well, I guess I'm not working out today. Instead, I need to be like, all right, well, I can do what I can do, get in what I can get in.
Yeah. So Jimmy, I'm a lot like you, brother. When I'm, on something, I am 110% on that thing. But what I learned along the way is boundaries. One, repeating what Coach Joe said, like, if you've got a set work schedule, you've got to be disciplined to say, okay, I'm working 8 to 4:30, whatever your schedule is, and that's it, right? Put the computer down. I work at home, so I have access to my work computer 24/7, and I used to be in it 24/7. So one of the best things that ever happened to me was getting leadership that supports work-life balance, right?
Yeah.
My new boss came in 3 years ago and says, yeah, I see you're working, sending me emails at 7 p.m. at night. And she's like, that's not happening anymore. When you're done for the day, you close that laptop, you don't open it again, right? So boundaries, right? 2, be a master of your own schedule, but know that that has to have flexibility in it, because every day is going to throw curveballs at you that, hey, you know what? I can't make the gym today. All right. So hit the nutrition. Again, control what you can control. Don't sweat the other stuff that you can't, because you can't. So why worry about it? Prioritization, right? Especially when it comes to filling your own cup so you can fill others. So you got to prioritize yourself first. And then, everybody else has different situations, right? For me, my family comes next, but there's a priority there as well. My wife is the top of that family prioritization, right? She was there before the kids. She's going to be here when the kids leave. So she's got to be my next priority. And then to the kids, and then everything else, house, chores, whatever. And that's been working for me for the last couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been posting a community group on my Sunday that I felt like I've been doing a boss fight for the past week. It was no joke. Stretched thin, very little time. So I totally understand. I had a huge change in my schedule. Like when I first joined Heartletics, I could leave work around 3 o'clock, get my workout in, and get my steps in and be home like 5 o'clock ish. So that wasn't a big deal. And then, but as my life changes, my business change, family needs change, kids started switching schedules. My business also demanded a lot more for me. I had to switch my schedule to early morning, right? And it was really hard at the beginning to make those changes. And then I made those changes and I ran them for a while. Then I fell off the wagon, right? Matter of fact, Mike here and a couple other guys, they helped me get back on that wagon, just holding me accountable. So sometimes just having somebody in the back going, dude, I'm expecting you to be there. I'm going to call you to make sure that you're there. And that helped me, especially for those first 2 days. So, dude, if you need me to give you a call first thing in the morning, like Mike did with me, just hold you accountable, say, dude, you up? Make sure you get up on time. I will. I'll call you and get you going and out of bed. If you want to, I'll even sing you a lullaby, but I'll put you back to sleep. So I'm definitely going to scream at you first. So, and then I'll tell you you're awesome. But, um, but yeah, it was definitely hard, man. It's not easy. You just have to kind of roll with the punches as life comes at you. You may not be able to do the same things you did last time when you first joined Heartletics. It might be different, right? And then, and one of my struggles, I talked about it this morning, is getting my steps in. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be more active with my kids, right? But my son has been asking me to wrestle with him. So like I spent like a half hour wrestling with him and I'm winded. Little dude got me going. So like it may not be steps, dude, but just like, you have to kind of stack, just like you stack affirmations and your gratitude and you stack those habits of mindset into your lifestyle. You might have to stack, the nutrition with this, and then you might have to stack your physical with your family and however that looks like, right? So, uh, you know, embrace the change. You're just gonna have to find out what fits and works best for you and where you in the season that you are at right now. And that's what I had to do. And what helped me also to help get those habits back into place because it were harder. It was definitely harder this time. Was really having accountability, dude. Like having somebody to hold me accountable, like Mike did and Jason did, which was great. So if you need me to call, man, you just plaster that number and I'll call you freaking first thing tomorrow morning.
Hey, Jimmy, I think, I was right where you're at about a couple months back and dealing with not having balance in my life because I was trying to focus on too much of trying to get one thing done. But from what Joe taught me and everything, the best thing I've ever done is start journaling. And what I'm doing now is I'm doing twice a day journaling, starting my mornings with my gratitude, my affirmation, and my intentions. And at the end of the day, I'm self-reflecting into that. And in my affirmations, I've got like 15. And I'm setting those as, the things I need to balance in the most. These are my affirmations. I'm pointing them towards you. So that's helped me like tremendously get balance.
If it wasn't for you being you back then, I would not be standing here today. It was your video, your awesomeness, everything, and you're still that person, brother. It's never going to go away, just number one. But I think, just like everybody said, we all go through seasons of life. I've had some ups and downs in the last few months. It's walk before you run again, right? It take the baby steps, man. And like people say, and this one I keep going back to, especially on tech end, is control what you can control and don't sweat the stuff you can't, because man, that stuff will eat you alive if you just focus on that. So step back, take a breath, and look at where you can put stuff in. We can always focus on nutrition, right? That's the easiest thing for us to control because we can pack that stuff, bring it with us. If you don't get to the gym, so what? You'll get there eventually, man. You'll find the time. So just find the things that you can control and stick with it, and we'll do everything we can to help you.
Dude, you remember what you told me? I asked you, I was so scared about joining because I'm like, man, am I gonna fail? Because I hate failing. Failing weighs me down so much. And I was like, dude, I don't even have one question for you. And I asked you, I said, you know, what do you gotta do to get to that level? And he said, just show up. That and I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, it's that easy. You just have to show up. That's the hard part. And I'm like, wow, that's it. So you tell me if I just show up every single day, I will see progress and some gains, right? And you're like, I did. So I'm gonna tell you the same thing you told me, bro. Just show up.
Yeah, well, my onboarding call was just a little bit different than Gabe's. And you know what I'm about to say, Jimmy.
I don't think I've ever heard this story, so I'm curious.
Well, he told me his version of just show up to me was who's going to win the battle inside? Your inner beast or your inner bitch? That's how he
I've
described it
heard
to
that
me.
before. I've heard that before. Yeah.
Right. And obviously this is not your situation now is not really a beast or a bitch thing, right? Because you want to do the right thing and you're just looking for advice on how to do the right thing. So it's not the same, but it is in like Gabe said, just showing up and doing the best that you can on each and every day is your inner beast, right? And like some of the other guys are saying, like Mike was saying, we can only control the things that we can control, and we all have to do sort of the best that we can on any given day, right? I personally have never looked at 1% better as a comparison of today to yesterday. I look at 1% better to be, hey, on any given day, I have X amount of energy, whatever. It's not going to be the same every day. And as long as I give myself as long as I perform 1% more than I have that particular day, then that's a win. Whether it's less push-ups and sit-ups than I did yesterday, or it's less steps than I did yesterday, but it's more than what I thought I had, that's my win.
It's good.
So,
It's good.
I encourage you to just sort of look at it that way, right? And at the end of the day, focus on the things that you did well. Don't focus on the things that you didn't get to. Focus on the things that you did get to. And that sort of puts you in a better mindset for the next day.
This is for everything. This isn't just the spiritual. This, as you guys heard from Mike, from Gabe, from Jeff, from Jason, from Bill, this is work-life balance. This is family life balance. This is just balance in a nutshell, right? That sometimes life's going to throw curveballs. It's just like us as guys going through this coaching program, we have to learn how to navigate and roll through these punches. We have to learn, hey, what is the good wolf? What is the bad wolf, right? What is the voice that we want to listen to? And are we man enough to just wave the white flag and say, hey, I need help. I don't want to do this all by myself. And that literally means you're shutting the door on the pride. You're shutting the door on the ego. So Jimmy, I appreciate you, brother, being man enough to ask this question, in front of everybody. And just lastly, before we end things, man, was this helpful for you?
Very helpful. These guys are, unbelievable. This group, even Brian Malcolm texted me yesterday out of nowhere, just checking on me. I mean, I don't think you can get a better group of guys, man. It's awesome, and them bringing up the onboard call. Yeah, that hits me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Heartletics is all about, brother. We're all in this together, man. Just like Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another.